Two. Hi, I'm Jody Silva.
My name is Ben Petrie.
Jackson Douglas.
And I'm Nate Stewart.
And we are doing our project on Malenia, Blade of Miquella. And let me start us off here. Who is Malenia? Malenia is part of a video game named Elden Ring, created by From Software. From Software is known for making exceedingly hard video games, very challenging. And Malenia is by far and away their hardest boss they've ever created. People have spent over 12 hours on this boss just trying to defeat her, Twitch streaming. And she's a pain. A little bit of lore around her is so there's 9 shard bearers. They're like these godlike enemies in Elden Ring, and she is the only goddess and the goddess of rot. In fact, she tried to destroy the entire land of Elden Ring by infusing it with poison, basically. But she was stopped by her brother, who was killed in the process. And Jack, here you go.
So why Malenia? Well, she's ridiculously time consuming. Anyone that wants to defeat her is going to die several hundred times potentially. And no one, especially, us or college students or just near anybody, is wanting to spend that much time fighting a boss. So we want to figure out the most efficient way and effective way to kill her or defeat her. And yeah, like I just said, what do we want to know? We want to know the most efficient way to vanquish her, get rid of her. Will summons improve our effectiveness? Is a question we have. Which build does the most damage? Where in the arena we're going to have our most success? What is the ideal character level to fight Malenia at? And which build survives the longest on average?
All right, now to our data dictionary. Before we do that, let's define our unit of measure. It's the individual records in our table represent a host being defeated by the Blade of Miquella, also known as Malenia. A few important records we have here. We have host death time, which is how long the host lasts against Malenia. It's a number, and it goes up to 325 seconds. We have our host build. There's a few different kind of builds here. We have melee, cast, raw melee and raw cast. Those are basically raw melee is shield and sword. Raw cast is like magic. Proc melee and proc cast, same thing, except they have elemental based damage. So like lightning, rot, poison, bleed, frost, all that fun stuff. And then we have hybrid, which we actually took out in one of our clean steps in our Tableau prep because it was just too messy and we really didn't like it. And we have our level, which we put a filter on it between 120 and 180 because you have to be a certain level to face this boss, or you're gonna last like 10 seconds. It's not even fun. And then we can skip these. We don't really use these much in our charts, but our phantoms we do use. And a phantom is basically a summon that you can the user can summon like a player from another world to come help. And we have our phantom count. So just so you don't get confused, 1 means no summon, it's just the host by themselves. And if it says 2, then that means the host is summoning someone else. And then you have your phantom build, your phantom death, Boolean value. Then finally we have our location. It's where on the map did Malenia kill the host last. And we'll move on to Nate.
All right, so as you can see by this chart, let's see. It tells you which character does the most damage against Malenia, and raw melee does seem like it's the most effective. And this chart basically tells you which, let's see. I'm sorry. It basically tells you the average damage per character by host build. So.
Yeah. As you can see, yeah, raw melee is the winner here. And next we got Pete.
So this next chart depicts the level requirement when facing Malenia. So like what level you should be when fighting her. And the variables for this heat map is average damage per second by host build and the level range. So the range of our levels is the entire range is from 120 to 180, but we divide that into high and low. Low being 120 to 150, and high being 150 to 180. And we actually found that at this point in the game, that increasing the level, like, past 150 really does not help your character very much. Actually can negate some of your damage. So you actually are honestly better fighting her between the 120 and 150 level range. And we noticed that within that, the raw melee is still doing the best for the build. So it is honestly right now hitting the hardest out of any of the builds that we've analyzed.
And so this pie chart basically represents how much time and how much, not how much, but basically where would be the best location to fight Malenia, and Central would be the most effective.
Yeah, and just to add on what Nate said, if you're in the outer arena, you're gonna become out of balance. Obviously, you're gonna get killed more. If you're in the inner workings of it, she's gonna swipe you with her sword. So, center, shield and sword, best place to be.
Right.
This bubble chart is depicting the survivability of each build. So survivability, we mean like the total duel time in seconds. So how long each of these players lasted against Malenia. And we found out that raw melee actually lasts the longest in these fights. And the variabilities in this chart is total duel time in seconds by host build and level range. We included the level range to show again that actually the lower level is having a higher damage, where orange is depicted of the lower range and blue is depicted of the higher. Our last visualization here is just is comparing the different phantoms you can use when fighting. Phantom is a character you can summon to fight beside you. And the last 4 questions we've answered, they've all been raw melee builds. So we have used that. We've made this chart in mind. So the null value represents just the average damage per second and the average duel time for a raw melee build host without a phantom. But when you look at the orange, blue, red, or green with the legend, you can tell that that is the stats with a summon. So when summoning a proctoring caster, you don't hit as hard, you don't have as much damage. You see, you have an 80 average damage per second, but you last longer in the ring. You can last up to 176 seconds. Where you could summon in another raw melee player over where the green one depicts, where you do hit the hardest. You have you're hitting 90.5, and but you're only lasting for 156 seconds. So you can kind of, with this chart, you can kind of decide which kind of build you want to summon to fight alongside you against Malenia.
All right, and then finally is, what do we recommend? And this is completely based on our analytics, not some YouTube video. I'm not trying to brag, but we recommend the raw melee build. It does the highest damage per second. The host survives the longest, and it doesn't require you to be a high level like some of the other builds, which is really important because we're trying to save people time, and Elden Ring is a very grindy game, and to get high leveled, you need to spend a lot of time killing just random creatures.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty great find, because otherwise many players are just going to spend a ton of time trying to get as high level as possible when it's not necessary.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then, like Pete said earlier, if you're thinking about using a summon, you should take a proc cast if you're looking to survive longer. And if you're just learning the character, I recommend this completely. But if you are trying to kill Malenia as fast as possible and get in there, use wipes down, knock her out, go with a raw melee or proc summon, and that'll help you out by taking her out quickly. Or that's not a word. All right. And finally, we have our citations, 2 citations. We got our Kaggle data set made by Jordan Carlin. Thanks, man. And then we have our Malenia wallpapers.
I've got to go.
This is our
Love you.
session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.